Hello there, everybody. This is Sophia Mona Lisa of the Roseville Mystery School, and I'm really excited to bring you my video journal today. I've been long anticipating this one because it's about a really spectacular uh, cosmic event that's happening at the end of this week. Today is Monday, the 18th of December. So, of course, I am talking about the winter solstice conjunct the Mercury Inferior Conjunction event. This is a really big deal. Well, the winter solstice is always a really big deal anyway. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the winter solstice in case you're not familiar with why it's a big deal for us. And then I'm going to talk more about the Mercury Inferior Conjunction event that's going to take place. So I'm here in Florida, Eastern Standard Time. So according to my time zone, technically, the winter solstice will happen on the 21st. I know for people in Europe, it's going to happen on the 22nd. For me, with it happening on the 21st, then what will happen is that the Mercury inferior conjunction, which is going to be less than 1 degree away from the winter solstice point, is going to happen on the 22nd. Again, those in Europe, those events will be taking place on the same day on the 22nd. So depending on where you live, what time zone you're in, you can maybe kind of figure out when these events might be happening for yourself. So let's talk a little bit about the winter solstice and the fact that this event is so spectacular because we know it as the rebirth of our great star, the sun. So the winter solstice is a time when light is born out of the womb of winter's darkness. And all of this information here on this slide has come directly from a website called Way of the Belonging, because there's so much really good information out there on the winter solstice. I don't need to try to create all of that from scratch, although I do like to find information that resonates with me, and this one absolutely does. So what happens is that every year on or near December 21st, when the sun's journey through the zodiac shifts from Sagittarius to Capricorn, the sun actually does appear to stand still for about 3 days. I know that that's a really hard concept for people to wrap their minds around. I tried discussing that with my own son several years ago, and he was certain that could not be so. Bless his little heart. But what this means is when the sun's shift from the zodiacal sign of Sagittarius to Capricorn is happening, that means that when the sun shifts over the threshold between Sagittarius and Capricorn from 29 degrees of Sagittarius to 0 degrees of Capricorn. 0 degrees of Capricorn is the point that marks the winter solstice. Now, this event marks the longest night of darkness, right? It's been getting darker and darker and darker since the fall, which is why, at least where I live, in the fall, we fall back in time, which means that instead of getting dark in the evening around 7 o'clock or so, it starts getting dark around 6 o'clock in the evening. So what happens is that this long night of darkness. And with the sun seeming to stand still for 3 days, it's as if the entire earth has taken this breath in to falter in the face of the overpowering dark. And then almost imperceptibly, the sun begins its long journey. And when it does, all of creation can then take the exhale after this period of building anticipation for the return of the light of the sun. And so, for those of you that celebrate Advent, that whole 3-week period of Advent is really a more Christian way of acknowledging this time period when the sun has kind of disappeared from us. The nights are getting longer and darker, and it's in this anticipation of the return of the light of the sun, S-U-N. And of course, we know then that the Advent leads us up to Christmas Day, which celebrates the birth of the sun, S-O-N. So, and in my world, I call that the birth of the Christ. So you can see how the Christian tradition of the 3 weeks of Advent leading up to Christmas is very much tied into this time of year when, winter is dark and the sun stands still in the sky. The earth takes this big inhale in anticipation for the return of the light of the sun when the earth can finally exhale. So when this event happens, this is when we have really arrived at the close of our calendar year in terms of a linear timeline, because the calendar year runs from January to December, and this event is happening in December according to the calendar. And so it really is a time of endings and a time of new beginnings. And this is such a deep, trying to find the right word. It's a process that is so ancient, that is so really visceral within us, that it is one of the reasons why it's become known as this holy time of the year. And so, from the winter solstice, what happens is that out of this longest night of the darkness, now the sun that has returned, the days are going to start to lengthen. And as we move, into the spring, and it's continuing to lengthen the daylight until we reach the companion event, the summer solstice. The summer solstice is the companion event for the winter solstice. And then from the summer solstice, when you could say that the flower has come into its greatest bloom, then we go through this cycle again of the days becoming shorter and shorter until we reach the winter solstice. And so this cycle continues, and all of nature is really hardwired to these cycles. And it's really, I feel, significant to honor these cycles, to be consciously aware of the cycles, honor the cycles, to work with the cycles. And this is why we see so many of the ancient sites built on the earth, like this one here at Stonehenge, that are aligned with these kinds of cosmic events. Okay, this is a beautiful poem that was written by Jessica Cudney, and she's from the site that I mentioned before, Way of Belonging. And I love this poem. I thought I would share it with you because to me, it really does speak to the intrinsic power, the way that our bodies that are a part of that element of earth are connected to these events. So she writes, let us prepare our bodies, hearts, and minds for a new year and birthing, for expansive self-awareness and relational learning. Let us give thanks for all the important lessons learned this past year and how life, in her vast intelligence, has shaped us into becoming all that we are. On this day, may we each in our own way take a moment to honor how far we have come to be here in this precious moment. There is great power in tuning into such culminating moments as we look ahead and envision new possibilities for ourselves on behalf of the collective. Let us give thanks to our great mother for all the ways in which she nurtures and sustains life on her holy body. May we be the example we long to see in the world and live in a way that future generations will be proud of. I just love it. I think it's really speaks to the fundamental significance of the winter solstice event. And of course, in the stanza where she's giving thanks to our great mother, if you didn't pick up on it, she's referring to our earth as Gaia, a goddess that is a great mother for all of us, human, plant, animal, birds, those in the waters that live on her body, whom she sustains, all of us. In fact, I'm going to do a little segue here because I'm starting to feel a little emotional about this. About 12 years ago, I was out in Sedona where I was just being introduced to the soul alignment breath practice, formerly known as Breath of Love, that Julia Mick birthed onto this planet. And while I was there, we did a lot of group sessions, but we could also have some private sessions. And so I chose to have a private session with her. My private session with her was so phenomenal that by the time I was done, I could barely stand up and walk because energetically, my legs felt like the size of the trunks of a sequoia tree. So, of course, I'm thinking I need to get outside to ground this energy. And by this time, it was dark. And you know how it is in the desert with the pitch black sky and all of the beautiful starlight. So I managed to get my way out, and I'm standing barefoot on that incredible, soil/clay out there. And all of a sudden, I was completely overwhelmed by this intense love. And I knew that it was the love coming from Gaia, coming from the Great Mother, coming from our earth. And in that moment of being overwhelmed by her love, I was dumbfounded because it was so intense. It was so palpable. I can remember thinking to myself, how is it possible that humans walk on the earth and are oblivious to this incredible love that the earth has for us? So for me, these cycles are really significant for many ways. In many ways, one, of course, is because I was born into the tribe that is the Virgo tribe, the priests and priestesses. And, we honor these cycles and the ceremonies around these cycles. They're significant to us in terms of a way of connecting with that which is sacred in our lives, in terms of our external reality, and certainly with connecting with the divine in our internal reality. So, what is the constellation that's going to be informing this winter solstice and Mercury Inferior Conjunction events? And it's this constellation, the dragon. And if you've been watching my work, you'll be aware that the dragons showed up with the Ring of Fire solar eclipse this past October, wanting to become an integral part of the work that I'm doing. Now, that may seem new to you because it's new in terms of the work that I'm putting out there. But I can tell you that when I started my priestess process under Nicole Christine's lineage, I think it was 2006 or 2007. I don't remember exactly. I've got it written down somewhere. Of course, one of the things that we had to do was pick a priestess name. And you know me as Sophia Mona Lisa. That's actually my high priestess name. That came through to me from Sophia when I was emerging from the high priestess program that is also a part of Nicole Christine's lineage. But as a priestess, I was thinking of what could be my priestess name. And my natal Mars and my natal Venus, right? My inner masculine, my inner feminine, are both in fire signs, Leo and Sagittarius, respectively. And the dragons came to me then and asked me to use their name, dragon, in my priestess name, which I did do. So the dragons have been with me for a very long time, even though they just seem to have suddenly appeared in my work since October. And of course, because Sophia asked me to continue with the DNA activations, and she specifically asked me to use the stars in these lost constellations. It's just, I think, a really beautiful synchronicity that the stars that are informing this event, which we will look at, are a part of this dragon constellation. And of course, the dragon is, again, a fiery symbol of life force and imagination. So this particular dragon constellation has a name, and his name comes from the myth of Hercules' 11th labor. He's known as Ladon. And this is the myth where Hercules has to go and get the golden apples and bring them to the king. And when he gets there, he discovers that Laban, sorry, I said, well, one place I have it Laban, the other place I have it Laden. Let me just pause and double check on that because now I'm confused. Hold on a second. Okay, so yes, it's Laden, and I've correct that here on the slide for you. So Laden is coiled around the base of the tree that's growing these golden apples. The name of this tree is called the tree of immortality. And these golden apples were a gift from Gaia, right? We were just talking about Gaia, the earth goddess. They were a gift from her to Hera on her marriage. So, in order to get these apples, one of the things that Hercules did was first he killed Ladon by putting an arrow through his heart. There are other things that he did in order to get these apples, but related to Ladon, that's one of the things that he did. And Hera, who was known as the Queen of the Gods, was extremely overcome by grief at Ladon's death. And so she's the one that placed him amongst the stars that resulted in him becoming the dragon constellation. So now that he is in the sky, he guards the North Pole. And who do we know that lives at the North Pole? Um, so I find that an interesting coincidence considering the time of the year that this is taking place, right? This is taking place on the 21st, 22nd, Christmas Day, of course, being the 25th. But in the ancient world, the North Pole was known as the still point in the turning world. And so that still point in the turning world was a symbolic doorway between this world and the next, which they identified as eternity. So, from my perspective, I would kind of relate to that as this world, right? The world where we are taking an incarnation into a human body, and the next world, which is the divine realm, where our divine self is a part of the unified source field. So, anyhow, through this doorway is where all the new things come into this world, according to this ancient belief. Now, also in the myth, Ladon is considered both a serpent and a river. And that goes back again to the myth around Hercules' 11th labor, because there was also a river around this little island where the tree of immortality was bearing the fruit of these golden apples. And so Ladon, as the dragon constellation, is, in terms of guarding the North Pole, is now considered guarding the treasure of immortality in the timeless. For me, I would refer to that as the eternal now, right? The still point in the eternal now, where everything is happening outside of time. And so they talk here about the word dragon being related to a Greek word, Dracos, which you see here as Draco. Of course, that name will be familiar to any of you Harry Potter fans. And that the Greek word meaning I. And so, speaking to how the dragons, like Ladon, are legendary for their vigilance in terms of what it is that they guard. In the ancient world, the dragon was known as the dweller on the threshold and the guardian of temple sanctuaries. And in China, dragon stands for heavenly spiritual power and wisdom. It also refers to the Earth's magnetic currents, which we call over here ley lines, which are considered to fertilize the earth. And of course, like Stonehenge that you saw in the earlier picture, and a lot of these temple sanctuaries that were, built with these megalithic stones, you will find them on these ley lines because of the spiritual power and frequencies that are coming together where those ley lines are crossing each other. So that's just a little bit about the constellation that is sharing its frequencies and its influences with the winter solstice every year at this time. And also, more importantly, this Mercury Inferior Conjunction event that has lined up with the winter solstice this year. So let's look at the stars that are specifically influencing these events. So this is the dragon constellation in terms of what it looks like with its star placement. Right here, you'll see is called the head of the dragon. There's 4 main stars that make up the head of the dragon. And the 2 stars specifically that are informing these events are Edaman, which is right here, considered the right eye of the head of the dragon, and Grumium, which is considered the jaw of the dragon. So here's some information about these stars and about, kind of gives you a little insight into some of the frequencies that are coming in with these star influences. So in terms of Edaman as a star, of course, it's no surprise that it comes from an Arabic word meaning the great serpent. Now, these stars often have Arabic names. Sometimes they have Greek names. And as I've said in the past, I'm not an Arabic or Greek scholar. Sometimes I mispronounce them. I'm doing the best I can. And so I'm apologizing in advance if they're pronounced differently. What's interesting about this particular star is that it is the brightest star in the entire Draco constellation. And this star has been worshipped from at least 3,500 BC in Egypt. That's like almost 6,000 years, right? If you add, or 5,500 years, I've got my numbers transposed. You add 2023 to 3,500, you're going to get 5,523. So, that's a long time. And this speaks to what I had said earlier, that these events, sorry, my cat Romeo decided he wants to join us, that these events were very much marked by the ancient temples. The temples were built in alignment with these events. So this star specifically was visible through the central passages of the temples of Hathor at Dendera in Egypt, and the temples of Mut at Thebes. At Thebes in Greece, it was known as which was known as the city of the dragon. And remember, a lot of cities in Greece were named after Egyptian cities. The one in Greece was known as the City of the Dragon, and there was a temple that was aligned to Edamen there in around 1130 BC. So you can see that the ancients were very attuned to the significance of this particular star and the light frequencies that were coming through with it. Now, in astrology, the moon has what we call nodes, lunar nodes. And whether you practice or follow Western astrology or Eastern astrology, such as Vedic astrology, the nodes of the moon have been named after this constellation. So the North Node, which I refer to in our charts as our evolutionary GPS for humanity as a collective, for us individual, is known as the dragon's head. And the South Node, which is directly across the sky from the North Node, is known as the dragon's tail. And those names come, as I said, directly from this constellation. Edamen as a star, in terms of its ancient understanding, is said to have the nature of Saturnia and Jupiter, with a kind of a Martian influence. And so that's significant in terms of discerning what kind of influence on an energetic level. Hold on, he's getting a little heavy. There you go. This star I have, I'm sorry, was distracted by the fact that Dolce and Romeo have decided to take advantage of attacking the Christmas tree, and there's this big mess on the floor behind me. Anyhow, what I want to remind you is that 3 years ago, winter solstice 2020, we had another huge cosmic event, and that was the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius. And so I find it interesting that this star has the nature of both the Saturnian and Jupiterian influence. Okay, so now Dulce's decided it's her turn. Hold on a second. Okay. So from the ancients, they discern that the influence from Jupiter and Saturn on this star portended beneficial changes in religion and dynasties. And so they saw this as resulting in events that were prophetic, that were revelatory, and miraculous. And in fact, there has been discussion that perhaps the star that the wise men followed was actually a conjunction of Saturnia, Jupiter, and Mars. And so we see here that this star, Edamen, the brightest star in this entire constellation, has the influence and nature of those three luminary bodies. So, you know, with the Martian influence of the frequencies of the peaceful warrior, you may want to contemplate for yourself, what does the dragon see coming in with the return of the sun at the winter solstice? And so I suspect that we're going to be seeing some really big changes show up in our external environment here on the planet for humanity, because of not only the influence of Edamen as a star, but the winter solstice and its conjunction with that Mercury Inferior Conjunction, which we know is all about alchemy. So this is a huge what would I would say here? This is a huge turn of the worm for humanity. Okay, let's look at Groomium and see what this one's about. So this star is one of what was known as the herd of camels, which was the Arabic theme for this constellation. So you see these four bright stars here in the head of the dragon. They were known as the herd of camels, and they represented four mother camels protecting a baby camel from the attack of two hyenas. Now, you could use your own imagination to connect this allegory with what's happening on the planet, which I find interesting. And I don't want to speak to it directly, so I hope that you're able to catch my meaning here in terms of who the camels are, the baby camel is, and who the hyenas are that the baby camel is being protected from the attack of. Okay. So that's just like a whole other rabbit hole you could go down. What I chose to do actually, because of my priestess training as a shamanic priestess, is look at the shamanic meanings behind these two animals, the camel and the hyena. And I find it fascinating, especially around the hyena, that we don't really get that that energy of being viciously attacked. But let's look at the camel energy first. And all of this information, animal information, comes from Ted Andrews and his work. So he tells us that the camel energy will bring to you the ability to be your own best resource, able to pull out your talents and skills with ease, always finding everything you need just by going inside. And for me, this is absolutely describing the energetic effect of reclaiming your sovereignty and standing in your sovereignty, owning your own power, so to speak. Ted continues to say that with camel energy within you, you will find you are a deep well of creativity and capability, which never runs dry. This is exactly what happens when you connect with your divine self. That divine self is that deep well from which the creativity flows forth. He says you will be able to produce solutions to situations that are original and creative, yet highly practical. And you will do this as easily as a natural part of being who you are. So that's great because it's talking about, really being tuned in to who you are as an authentic being, and also, staying connected and aligned with your authentic self. Now, hyenas, this is interesting, and I love this because it's really significant, and I'll explain why in a minute. Hyenas invite us to develop clan and communal life. Protection and safety can be found in clan type alliances. Hyenas have highly developed noses, and the sense of smell is associated with discrimination and discernment. With an increased ability to discern, you will be clearer on what to do, when to do it, who to trust, who to believe, and more. So I love this because right now, Pluto is standing at that 29-degree point of Capricorn, that mastery point. And next month, January, it's either the 20th or the 21st. I don't remember exactly. Pluto is going to be crossing the threshold between Capricorn and Aquarius, going back into those Aquarian energies. And so I've talked before about Pluto in Aquarius, and it's 2 decades worth of a journey through the Aquarian energies, being all about bringing humanity into a global community, and that this humanity's ability to come into conscious equal partnership with each other, which this new series of eclipses that started in April is aligning us to, is a necessary step in order for us to be welcomed into a galactic community. Because if we cannot coexist peacefully, harmoniously, as conscious equal partners on our own planet in a global community, then why would the galactics invite us into their community? So I think it's interesting that this influence of the hyena here is helping to develop this clan and communal life. And of course, this influence is always here. I just think it's particularly poignant right now because, within a month, Pluto will be going into those Aquarian energies, further emphasizing the need for peace and harmony in families, right? The pathway of the Cancer Capricorn axis where this event is happening, right? 0 degrees of Capricorn for the winter solstice. And so across the sky, 0 degrees of Cancer. That pathway is known as the pathway of family, home, and community. Interesting correlation here to this hyena medicine. And so peace and harmony within families, within homes, and within communities, so that we can start to come together and support each other in that ability to be conscious equal partners, shifting out of hierarchical, particularly patriarchal leadership, into a more authentic, consensual leadership model. So these are the influences coming in at this time of year, every year at the winter solstice, and again, emphasizing also this year at this Mercury Inferior Conjunction. We are being alchemized by the Mercury Inferior Conjunction, and these star frequencies are a part of what is alchemizing us, okay? Talk more about that in a minute. So that's the constellation and the stars that are influencing this event. All right. So here we are, ready to talk more about the Mercury Inferior Conjunction. And I know it says 1 degrees Capricorn here, but that's because in astrology, we have a rounding system. And so if it's 30 minutes or less, you round down. If it's 30 minutes or greater, you round up. This event is happening at 0 degrees Capricorn, 39 minutes, which is why technically it's rounded up. But if you consider that the winter solstice point is 0 degrees, right? 0, 0, 0, and that this Mercury Inferior Conjunction is happening at 0 degrees, 39 minutes, and there's 60 minutes in a degree, this is about a half a degree in terms of the little orb, the little window between the two events. And of course, the Mercury Inferior Conjunction includes that sun, which was standing at the 0 degree threshold for the winter solstice. because the Mercury inferior conjunction is the Mercury and Sun coming together below the horizon. That's why it's called inferior conjunction. And this is the point in the very middle of the Mercury retrograde journey. So let me tell you that I was very, very curious about how frequently does, well, let me back up because I kind of got ahead of myself. This Mercury inferior conjunction in Capricorn here this month, December, is the second inferior conjunction in Capricorn this year, 2023. The very first inferior conjunction, Mercury inferior conjunction, took place in January this year in Capricorn, specifically 17 degrees of Capricorn. And now here we are at the end of year having like a bookend event where once again, the Mercury inferior conjunction is in Capricorn. So this was what I was contemplating. How frequently does a Mercury inferior conjunction happen twice in the same calendar year within the same astrological sign? So I went back to Gary P. Caton's book because he's my Mercury guru. He has a book called Hermetica Triptycha. I've promoted it lots and lots of times. I highly recommend it if you're at all interested in Mercury and his dance with the sun. And I do not get any compensation for promoting his book. He has an ephemeris at the back. And so I started looking through the ephemeris to see, has this happened before? When it happens, how often does it happen? That sort of thing. And what I discovered actually was a pattern. First of all, I discovered that when it does happen, when we began a calendar year with a Mercury inferior conjunction, and we end a year with a Mercury inferior conjunction in the same zodiac sign, it only happens when the Mercury inferior conjunction is in Capricorn. I found that fascinating. Okay. And there is a pattern. Not only does it only ever happen with Capricorn, but there is a pattern where it seems to happen where it'll occur, then 7 years later it'll occur, then 13 years later it'll occur, 13 years later it'll occur, and 7 years later it'll occur again. That seems to be the pattern. 7, 13, 13, 7 years between when Mercury has an inferior conjunction in Capricorn at the beginning of the year, and then again a second time at the end of the year. Now, the last time this happened was 13 years ago in 2016, which means that if my pattern works out, right, that I discovered, then 13 years from now, 2036, we should be having another year with the Mercury inferior conjunction happening in Capricorn at the beginning and the end of the year. And so when I looked forward then to test my pattern that I had discovered, sure enough, in 2036, 13 years from now, this will happen again. So I just love that kind of stuff. And I thought I'd share it with you since I had gone down that, pathway to discover what might be particularly unique around the fact that we're having both of these events this year. And I think it is a significant influence. Okay, let's look at the chart here. Now, this is the chart for the Mercury inferior conjunction. You can see the sun and Mercury here together at 0 degrees, 39 minutes. We know that that is conjunct that 0 degrees of Capricorn winter solstice point. So that's why I chose the chart for the inferior conjunction. So we see a lot of stuff going on here. First of all, what we see is that the winter solstice point and the Mercury inferior conjunction point are making what's called a sextile, a 60-degree aspect to Saturnia in Pisces. And of course, Saturnia, she's the goddess of Capricorn. That's her playground. And, the sextile aspect for me is like the BFF, right? The best friend that's always got your back. That's the kind of friendly flow of energies that happens between the luminary bodies in this kind of an aspect. And so, Saturnia in Pisces, I've been looking at this for a while. And the two big themes that I've pulled out regarding Saturnia in Pisces are these. One, spiritual discipline, right? Spiritual being the Pisces aspect, Pisces, which represents the unified source field. And we know Saturnia and Capricorn can be very much related to the discipline, the kind of discipline that you require to master something. So spiritual discipline, spiritual mastery. Okay, I would say that those are two sides of the same coin. The other theme that I pick out from this is that we know that Saturnia is our cosmic gateway in terms of our solar system. All of the frequencies from the luminary bodies that are further away, right? Jupiter, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, and others. All of their frequencies have to come through Saturnia in order for them to be made manifest on our planet. Because Saturnia in Capricorn is all about manifestation. So she's the cosmic gatekeeper. Everything out there has to come through her to be birthed, to be made manifest on our planet. And so in terms of the unified source field, then that aspect of her tells me that this whole journey that she's making through Pisces is about humanity rebirthing their divine self within them. And I've talked a lot about the influence of the dark forces that has cut humanity off from their divine self. And sometimes it does feel like a sever. For other people, it may feel like an unplugging. And for me, I know that could be a subtle difference. For me, when you unplug something, plugging it back in is not the same kind of effort as it takes when something gets severed and now it has to be reconnected and repaired. It seems to be a little bit more work involved in that. So that's why I feel like Saturnia in Pisces is all about humanity being able to reconnect with their divine self, re-embody, right? Earth signs like Capricorn that Saturnia is the goddess of is all about embodying that. This is another reason why I think that the Christ heart has been able to come into our awareness and be reconnected with over the course of this year. And I did a video journal recently where I've talked about the key milestones of this year that have allowed that unfolding to happen, relevant to Leo as a sign that represents the heart space, the radiant heart. In the past, the 3D compassionate heart field, and now currently the Christ heart, the awakened heart, the 5D plus heart field. And I do feel that Saturnia in Pisces journey, and of course, all of that unfolded primarily when she was in her retrograde. Remember, I've said when planets go in a retrograde motion, it's kind of a vision quest. What did we not pick up the first time that we need to go back and put into our medicine bag and bring forward with us? And so it's interesting that all of my work around the Christ heart coming back online for humanity and these key events incorporated that Saturnia vision quest through Pisces. I love it. Okay, so that's what you see here in purple. And so now, of course, we want to look at the stars, because the stars are the ones that are informing this event. And look here, they are on either side of the galactic center. This is significant because through our galactic center come all kinds of light codes and frequencies that have never been within our galaxy before, that humanity has never been exposed to before. And so think about Saturnia as the cosmic gatekeeper. Even all of those frequencies coming in through the galactic center have to come through Saturnia, the cosmic gatekeeper, in order for them to be made manifest here on our Earth. The other interesting thing that I'll mention, because this is the Mercury Inferior Conjunction, and we know that Mercury is in that retrograde journey, that during this time that Mercury is going to be going over the galactic center 3 times. This is highly significant because, if you'll recall, I shared with you at the October Ring of Fire solar eclipse in Libra that Mercury had received this huge quantum leap in terms of conscious equal partnership with us, humanity, as far as being a cosmic messenger from our divine self, from source to us, as opposed to a cosmic messenger from the ancient gods to us. So this is a huge thing, that since Mercury has been brought into conscious equal partnership with us at that October Ring of Fire solar eclipse in Libra, on that Aries Libra axis, right? It's the axis of conscious equal partnership, that he is going over the galactic center 3 times. And so we know that anything coming through the galactic center is being sent to us by source through all of the other luminary bodies that are out there. Tens of millions of light years away from us, and others that we don't know, that are sharing their light codes and their light frequencies with us and our evolutionary expansion, with our ascension, with our alchemy, right? Aligning us, spirit, mind, and body at this event. So this is all really, I hate to keep using the word huge, but this is the power and the potency of what we're dealing with is beyond what the lower mind can even imagine. And because it can't imagine it, it can't really comprehend the significance of that influence that is, of course, being orchestrated by Source, that which many people call God or Goddess, the great creator. So this is huge. This is where we want to focus then in terms of how we are being aligned and alchemized at this Mercury Inferior Conjunction / winter solstice event with the return of the light, right? What's being birthed within us, what's being birthed, Saturnia in Pisces, from our spiritual self, from our divine self. What is Source bringing in to us with the return of this light? So we see a couple of aspects here. We see a semi-sextile over here to Isis, the cosmic Sophia, and Venus and Scorpio. And we also see a semi-sextile over here to Pluto in Capricorn. Now, the semi-sextile aspect is what I have been calling recently as the sacred helpmate. It's called a semi-sextile because it's 30 degrees, half of the sextile, which is 60 degrees, right? So if you think of the sextile as the BFF that's got your back, this is a much closer, much more intimate relationship at a semi-sextile, 30 degrees, right? It's a closer from 60 to 30. That brings it in closer. It's a closer, much more intimate relationship. And that's why I call it the sacred helpmate aspect, because this is someone who is really dedicated to your spiritual growth, to your spiritual work, to your spiritual awakening. And so the support, the nature of the support here is much more intimate and much more personal, I would say. So we've got the cosmic Sophia, right? Divine wisdom, standing with Venus, the sacred feminine, in Scorpio. Again, Scorpio ruled by Pluto. What are we rebirthing within us? In Pluto and Capricorn, we are birthing within us that master, that spiritual master, that elder or the wise part of yourself, the way shower, the one that's going to be using their spiritual mastery to help others, to hold the lantern, to light the way for others to be able to come in to their own spiritual mastery. So that's really big in terms of us all being able to come into global community, because the only way we're going to be able to come into global community is by having conscious equal partnership. The only way we can come into conscious equal partnership is if we step out of the egoic angst that get triggered, right? And into the more compassionate, peaceful relationship of a spiritual master. Okay, so all of this is like working together, that's leading humanity across this threshold from the old, which was the dark matrix, the matrix controlled by the dark forces, to the new, which is the new earth, with humanity becoming more liberated in their consciousness and more cooperative in working and creating together. Okay, The other thing that we have here is we have a square to Neptune right here. Neptune is the Lord of Pisces. He is your direct pipeline to source. So in order for all of this rebirthing of your master self, which from my perspective, before we come on to earth, many of us are already masters. Some of us are ascended masters that have come back. Some of us are bodhisattvas that have come back to help. And so Neptune in Pisces allows you to have that breakthrough in consciousness where you now have a direct connection with, you might want to call it your future self, right? If you're talking about linear time. For me, everything is in the eternal now, but some people still need to be linear because they're not sure yet how to work with nonlinear. This breakthrough in consciousness that Neptune and Pisces will provide for the embodiment of this spiritual mastery that we are rebirthing is a part of that curriculum. How do we shift from working in linear to nonlinear? This is a huge curriculum that you've got to be able to ground on this earth to be able to work in that capacity. The other part of it is, in terms of the future, quote unquote, future selves that I was speaking of, is, being able to have this awareness of yourself as either a master, an ascended master, a bodhisattva. There are angels that have come here into human form. Maybe your angelic self, so whatever you as a fractal of source, whatever you are as a fractal of source, in the greatness of who you are, that's going to be another breakthrough in consciousness that you will have that will help you to manifest that part of yourself on this planet as a way shower for others in terms of the spiritual mastery that you will start to demonstrate in your families, in your homes, in your communities, okay, in your organizations. Now, notice that this Neptune placement has a trine over here to Venus and the cosmic Sophia. The trine is the path of most allowance. And so this is beautiful because this rebirth that the cosmic Sophia and the sacred feminine are facilitating for you is coming straight from the source field, who you are in your greatness. It's not coming from a part of yourself that is in separation. It is coming from the part of you that still resides in wholeness and unity consciousness, which is going to make this nearly seamless. And I say nearly because your egoic self is got to allow this to happen. And so as you're watching this and hearing this, you may have a conversation with your lower mind. And in fact, frequently when I'm having sessions with clients, I'll say, okay, now I'm speaking to your lower mind so that it can sit back, it can relax, and it can know that there's nothing for it to take care of, that this process that's unfolding is really safe for you and for your benefit. So if you have that conversation with your lower mind and expect for it to sit back and allow this to unfold, it can be seamless. If it's not seamless, that's a clue to you that you need to have a little conversation with your egoic mind. Tell it, thank you very much for trying to protect me. And I've got this. You can sit back and relax. All right. And then we've got this trine to the North Node from all of this star power to the North Node here, telling us, again, a path of most allowance. This is il destino, right? This is the quantum moment in the linear and nonlinear space for this evolutionary leap for humanity to come into alignment with. So that's why I said in an earlier video journal that the conjunction of these two cosmic events, the winter solstice point and the Mercury inferior conjunction, is going to be like your hair going, right? I don't know if you can see that. Because of all of these incredibly potent frequencies that are coming in. Okay, this is what they're showing me. It's like taking an Etch-a-Sketch board and going, and now you've got a blank slate to work from. But your Etch-a-Sketch board is not only blank, Father Christmas is giving you, a glass pad, galactic glass pad to work with instead of your Etch-a-Sketch. That's what's happening. So I hope that makes sense to you. Oh my goodness. Okay, of course I had to draw a dragon. I asked the dragons which dragon is grounding the frequencies of these two big events for us. And the green dragon came forward. Now, let me tell you, this is absolute perfect synchronicity, because I didn't draw this dragon when I drew this dragon, rather. No, how am I going to say this? This dragon came after all of the other work around this that I did. And so you can see that this dragon absolutely aligns with everything that I shared with you from the beginning about what the winter solstice event is, about the poem that I read to you, and about what's happening here in the chart for the Mercury inferior conjunction winter solstice event. So this green dragon helps you tune into the secrets of nature. Nature, of course, is Gaia, right? When they say, don't mess with Mother Nature, they're talking about Gaia, the earth goddess. So receive answers and guidance from Gaia. Align with your divine essence. I love this. Look at this. This Neptune in Pisces trine to the cosmic Sophia in Venus and Scorpio. This is that alignment with your divine essence that is being birthed within you from your wholeness as this spiritual master. I mean, this whole thing, everything about this dragon completely validates, supports, is a cooperative piece, collaborative piece of everything I've shared with you right now. So these cards come from Diana Cooper. It's her dragon oracle deck. That's why this is all in italics, because they're direct quotes from her. And this isn't all of what's in there. These are just some of the highlights that spoke to me. So I encourage you to get her dragon oracle deck and read about this for yourself. Anyhow, briefly, the green dragons are fifth dimensional. They touch our psychic centers and help us to tune into the sacred geometry in the trunks of trees, the petals of flowers, the shells of snails, and everywhere in Master Pan's kingdom. These are the keys and codes that bring us in tune with our divine essence. This also speaks to this Pluto in Capricorn, 29 degrees, mastery point of Capricorn, rebirthing your ability to be in tune with Gaia, receiving from the codes, the geometry, the sacred geometry of Gaia and the way that she shows up around us. It says here that when we are fully aligned with our dimensional blueprint, we are automatically whole and healed. Part of the guidance that she provides, Diana Cooper provides, is this. The nature kingdom is a magical place in which all our answers are held for us. Luminous green dragons help us to read these answers. So if you can sit quietly in nature, call a green dragon and ask for guidance. You may feel the need to walk somewhere particular. If so, follow this impulse, for your green dragon will be guiding you. Keep your eyes and ears open, for the answer may come through a tree, bird, insect, animal, or something else entirely. Your green dragon will glide with you, directing you to the answer you need. This calls for deep trust and an understanding that the divine plan is perfect. And so for me, really, this is speaking to opening yourself up to shamanic experiences. How many times in past journals over the years have I talked about a golden eagle that showed up, or the crane family that showed up, my wasp family that was living above the threshold of my home for 6 years. I have so many shamanic experiences, a lot with the birds, oftentimes with turtles, and also with other animals, rabbits, red fox, coyotes that I encounter. And so this, of course, goes back to the star Grumium that I said I was inspired through my priestess training to look at the shamanic messages around the camel and the hyena. And so the fact that this green dragon came through and is completely collaborating and validating every little piece of what I've shared with you was absolutely thrilling for me to know that we've got them grounding the frequencies of the aspects that are happening in the sky at this time here within humanity, onto the earth, and into precious Gaia. All right. Now I want to extend an invitation to you. My dear friend Maria Hartsong is getting ready to launch an exquisite song called Lighthouse. And to do that, she has aligned it with the winter solstice event. And I don't know if she is aware about the Mercury Inferior Conjunction being aligned with it as well. But let me tell you this. Here is the link for you to go to, and I'll put it in the description box below as well, to reserve your seat. You need to reserve your seat. This is a free event. But what's spectacular that I want to speak to here is that based on when she's doing it, and of course the time difference, for me, it's happening at 2 p.m. Eastern on the 22nd. That's 9 minutes after the Mercury Inferior Conjunction is going to be exact for me in this time zone. So I don't know if she was aware of that when she picked that time, or if that is just a manifestation of how the universe is bringing all of these cooperative components together to support her in the release of this song, Lighthouse. To me, it's just a beautiful, beautiful manifestation of the power of the frequencies that are in this song that absolutely reflect the frequencies that I described to you in this winter solstice Mercury Inferior Conjunction event. Also, during this free winter solstice event, Maria is going to be doing a light activation. So that light activation is going to help you to connect to your higher self, right? Neptune in Pisces, higher self, and your sacred purpose. Saturnia in Pisces. I mean, can it get any better? I just love it. So I encourage you, go ahead right now and go out to this link and reserve your spot for that free event. Now, the other thing that I was inspired to do is some of you may recall that through the the Black Friday, Cyber Monday event, I was offering a 50% discount on this winter solstice alchemical reading. And so it was only available from Black Friday to Cyber Monday. And if you didn't book it then, you didn't get that price. Well, now that I'm doing this video journal and I'm putting it out there, I was inspired by Sophia to once again offer it to you. Now, my patrons, they get the best deals. So they can get it for $75. But for the rest of you at the 50% discount, you can get it at the $90 rate. My regular rate is $180. This offer is going to expire 12/31. So you can book it now. And even if we do it in January, which is when we're going to have to do it because I'm booked up for December, at least you'll have your price locked in. And it's okay that we do it in January, because remember, this is about the end of the old and the beginning of the new. And of course, January, everybody's all about the new year and new resolutions and new practices and everything. So January is a beautiful time to honor this event and have this session done for you. But definitely you want to get on my calendar before the end of this month so that you can get this rate. Okay. And to do that, just email me, SophiaMonaLisa79@gmail.com. Make sure that you spell Sophia with an F, not a PH. Okay, no matter how many times I remind people, they still spell my name with a PH. So Sophia with an F, MonaLisa79@gmail.com. So thank you so much for sticking with me to hear all about what's coming up right before the birth of Christ on Christmas. And of course, this is an integral part of the birth of that Christ consciousness. And so until the next time, which may be in 2024, have a happy and joyous holiday season and a very happy, happy new year if I don't see you before. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.